Yo, so at one point my man was actually a waiver, gave up on it slowly, and had his hair pretty much become this. And I'm here to tell you that haircuts are not GTA, Fortnite, or 2K modifications. As I mentioned in the intro, haircuts are not modifications straight out of a video game. It's not how hair in reality is set up. You can definitely see my man's has hair that is set up for braids, two-stranded twists, or even be prepped for locks. So as you can see, that hard line that I just showed you, that separates the short hair where it's tapered and the long hair is something that some people have a huge issue with when they see this, because they always say, blend it in. Well, the thing is, if I did that, I'll ruin the setup that this is already set up for. So with that being said, to the old school OGs that don't understand what I'm talking about, and this is for beginners also, this haircut transformation that I'm about to show you is a process on how to actually blend that hair in to that taper. I'm going to do just that. So if you can see, I'm showing you with the comb. I can go clipper over comb, but with coarse hair like this, you know, that curly texture, it's just not gonna work out. So I'm gonna go ahead and just freehand this, shape up the entire head to a shape that I want to see this become. Now, this is gonna be the first haircut, which is pretty much going to mold the look that we are aiming for, the look that eventually this will morph into over time. Because let's face it, every time you transition a haircut into a completely different look, there's going to be a lot of things you, the barber or the stylist, you know, whether you like it or not, you have to be prepared for your client to be shocked. You need to be patient with them as much as you need to help them be patient with their new look. You have to help them adjust. This is like a lifestyle change. It seriously is something that will have people upset. And as you can see with my man's face, he usually keeps a straight face on. He's real chill, especially when I'm doing my videos with him. He keeps it pretty chill, but he is not that happy about this haircut. At this point, this is something that parents and guardians will make a decision or choice for their kid and say, you got to do something about it. Because nowadays, the kids are wearing their hair like whatever. It's probably more wild than it's ever been. But then again, when you look back in the 80s, dating back to the 70s, there was some pretty interesting, weird styles dating back to the 50s. I mean, it's always been a history repeating itself situation. So I'm not really too surprised about how things are going nowadays with some of these haircuts, but there's some of them that's just straight up a no-go, and I have to talk people into certain things. But if they say no, they don't want to, they don't want to try that out, when I make suggestions, if they don't want to go for it, then hey, we leave it at that. But in this case, his pops did, of course, talk to me about they were looking to shape it up and mold it into a blend, you know, along the sides, so this could eventually, you know, fade in properly. So we had this conversation of how, yeah, this won't really work out as smooth as they are hoping for with this first service. And this is something that everyone should be aware of. The first service never works out. So as you can see, I have the shape that I am looking for, free-handed, molded in there. This is as good as it's going to get. I'm going to pick it out later on and do the same thing, go ahead and freehand it. But as you can see, I combed out just a little bit of hair, and I'm using a 2-guard. In this case, I see the 2-guard fit for the situation. I can use a 3 or a 4, but the 2 is ideal. And this is one of those situations where when I tell people the most important guards in any guard system is the half, the 1, the 1.5, as well as the 2. Everything else, you can pretty much skip it over. Seriously. Now, as you can see, I've moved over to the 1.5. By the way, for those of you who are wondering, I'm using a wall system. These are the wall guards that I'm using. So definitely moved over to the 1.5, just pretty much shaping in everything that I need to blend in to remove that harsh line that has been created from him with the old style that he was rocking, with him being able to do two-stranded twists, braids, whatsoever you name it, right? So you get the gist of all that. So I'm going to speed through this process, because this whole process, even though I'm speeding through it like this, I'm going to come back to it in a whole separate video, which will be a follow-up on how we went about this. And just in case you're all wondering, I've been sitting on this video for some time. I didn't really know how I was going to go about it, but it's pretty much something that I want you all to understand. When your client isn't too happy about their haircut the first time, especially for example after a big chop, this is equivalent to a big chop. You need to make sure you prep them for that. So I pretty much have my shape of the afro. I have my taper in there. As you can see, I just sprayed a little bit of water to kind of soften up the hair on this afro. So I'm picking it out using a metal pick, and all these combs that I'm using, everything that I'm doing in the follow-up video, I'm going to explain to you everything and show you everything that I am using, versus how I'm just kind of going about it this way. In this video, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do, because this was caught in real time. This is just a moment that I had where it was like, you know what, I might as well let the camera run. Let's do this real time. But of course this is sped up, so it's definitely something that you just kind of got to watch along and wait into that follow-up video. But I switched over from the short metal pick to the long metal pick. Now I'm using a big tooth comb. This is also something that's made out of a polymer, which is softer on the hair when it comes down to blowing it out, and that's the reason for why I put water on it, so I can just pull out as much hair as possible with the heat, making sure that anything that I missed when I first did the freehand is all set. So as you can see, I'm about to use some shears, but what I want you to understand is I'm trying to angle the shears in a way where, like when I first showed you with this comb, I can do clipper over comb, but it just won't work as smooth with this texture, especially with the simple fact that this is not trained hair yet. It's still being molded into a shape that we eventually want to see blend into that taper. As you can see, there's those harsh lines or harsh blends where it's not really looking that smooth. This is part of the process. It's going to be ugly. Your client needs to be aware of this. If you don't explain these things, you will have issues. They kind of have to just pretty much thug it out. They have to stick it out, be strong about it. It's not the most pleasant look, and this of course can help if I shampooed the hair, but in this case, because that line is so harsh in there, the hair is trained for that particular look that he was getting with the two-stranded twist. So, you know, I'm just gonna go ahead and just use the shears and smooth out everything. Just go through the head and, you know, making sure that they clip everything real smooth, real soft, keeping everything as natural as possible, because there will be hair left over, believe me, but I don't want to take them down too low, because if I take them down lower, we're going to lose the afro, and the point of all of this is not to lose that afro. He did agree to allowing me to cut his hair low. Well, when him and his father and mom possibly talked about it, I'm not sure what mom's thoughts was on this for real, but I believe that this was a family effort to talk this young man into getting this afro shape. And you will see kids that are rocking this nowadays with the fro, but usually most of them do what? Do the sponge. They want to sponge it up, get that texture to it, you know, give it a curly, crinkly look whatsoever. So, you know, we're doing this for him just to make sure that my man's is looking tight. And the follow-up videos that you will see of how this turns out, you will definitely appreciate all of this information that I am throwing out there, because believe me when I say haircuts, no matter what it is, It doesn't matter if it's a low cut. When you're transitioning, for example, if you're even doing a low taper, a mid taper, high taper, to a tapered fade, to a bald fade, you know, whether it's a drop fade, if you're keeping the C cups or you're losing the C cups, all of that requires patience. Molding the hair, transitioning haircuts is not fun. People definitely always complain about their hair the first time. They don't appreciate how it looks. They always have the illest and worst things to say about their hair. And these are signs of insecurities. The confidence goes out the window. This is what you call the shock. It's completely normal because no one ever expects to look the way they do. And it comes down to these switch ups, you know. So as you can see, I'm laying in the lineup, making sure that everything is symmetrical, starting from the middle, working my way out into those vertical bars. He doesn't have the widest vertical bar, so I have to be careful about how I go about this. And there's overhang left behind here, so for those of you who are kind of looking like, man, you're digging all in that line, that's just overhang, and his texture is just set up a certain way where it lays over when it grows, which is awesome. But to some people this is not very ideal, but my man's likes his hair line up as straight as possible, symmetrical, push in where necessary, because it doesn't have perfectly balanced hair on both sides when it comes to those vertical bars, those C cups. As you can see, there's definitely different growth patterns. So this hair on this side, on the left, usually moves forward, and this is probably one of the easiest sides. It's a good side. Sometimes it doesn't cooperate, but this is an easy side in my opinion. Everything is awesome when it comes to that left side. It's the right side that's the problem, because that hair kind of flows backwards, and you will see in a moment there's a slight difference in both of his sides. On this temple side area with the vertical bar, you know, but the line set up on him as far as his texture is always easy to go about. It's really smooth. I always have a good time cutting his hair, whether it's going from wavy hair as he had before. I can't believe he started to slowly give up on his waves. If you go back to the video in the beginning with the throwback of how his hair used to be, that's actually him when he was giving up slowly on his waves, then eventually started to grow it out into a short curl, which I will show you all of this footage in a different video. You know what? I don't know why I'm trying to be stingy about it, but this is the video that you saw at the beginning, which in this clip here that you're seeing, this is not even the best that he had his waves. At one point, he had these things spinning like crazy. And this is 2 years ago, I believe, like 2022, compared to this video right here, this clip with him having a little texture. This is like 2023. Then yeah, literally his hair started to grow pretty fast, but this was pretty much all I have for y'all to see with his journey. I would have to dig through the archives to really find more footage of how this has gone, because he even disappeared for a while to where he wasn't coming through to get a haircut because he was just getting two-stranded twists and letting it drop, and maybe he was going to somebody else. I'm not sure. I didn't really get into that detail, but yeah, he eventually found his way back into the chair, and it was definitely time for him to switch it up. And I am really excited to show y'all the full process of how we go from this, which is not as tight as it can be, because what this will shape into is amazing. And I'm gonna make sure that I do these follow-up videos back to back, just so you can see how this whole thing went down, because this is a must watch. This is for everybody that is very curious to know how to go about transitioning haircuts, changing styles, how the hair will cooperate versus not cooperating depending on texture. Every texture reacts differently to those trimmer blades, those clipper blades. Don't treat hair the same. If it's wet, if it's slightly damp, you know, if it's dry, you know, if you're having holding sprays being put in place to hold that hair intact so that you can cut it properly, everything is really, really different. So I need you all to follow up with these videos, watch them in full, and learn something for those of you who are missing that small detail on how to go about these. And this being an Afro shape up, I know a lot of you probably have been really curious for years, maybe just months, on how to do a good Afro shape up. Doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes you can do it, but it all depends on how well the hair is prepped, trained, you name it. It's all about prepping. So this is pretty much the prep to set this taper up with the Afro properly, because this transition right here, this is not it. It ain't it, y'all. So for those of you who are coming on here saying do this, do that, nah, stop it. I get it. Constructive criticism, I'm all for it. But I know some of you are going to be saying a whole lot in that comment section, but please bring it on. If you know a way, for example, that actually is a faster process to achieving a Afro, go for it. Leave it in the comments, let me know. A lot of people like to just say a whole lot when they don't really know what's going on or what the setup of the texture truly is. It's ridiculous how people can be in these comment sections having no idea. So, make sure you know what you're talking about. So as you can see, everything's pretty much done. I'm just doing final touch-ups and details. I put the razor on there. Now I'm over here just making sure that the details are completed. I don't want to have a halfway job. I don't want to leave anything behind that will be more difficult to work with next time, because setting up the lineup, setting up the taper, setting up the Afro, all of these details matter. You can fix it later, sure, but you don't want to have too much work being done the next time. So the follow-up is going to be a game changer for him. All of the appointments that you will see of him being featured in, as far as the haircuts that I will be presenting to you, are split, or they're separated, spaced out by 2 weeks. Each haircut is by 2 weeks. So as you can see, I'm just kind of moving the hair around, showing you how the angles look, where some angles are okay, some angles are not that great, especially lighting is playing a huge role in this one too. To the naked eye, this looks good. The camera shows you everything that's going on. That is a bow at this point. This is harsh. This is given no blend. This is given rookie. This is given you need to do some more work. Well, this is the harsh reality. This type of work is regular to some. It's produced regularly at your local shop in the United States. Globally, actually. There's mediocre haircuts like this walking around all day. But like I say, please stay tuned. Watch the next follow-up videos, how this will transform from this to better, okay? Because there's a lot of work to be done. But I appreciate y'all watching. Leave a comment, share this video to anybody that you know that will appreciate this information. But make sure that you follow up with part 2 of this haircut, because it will be definitely worth it. And there will also be a part 3, maybe a part 4, but I just want y'all to see what the process really takes to transition a style. Believe me when I say this, it's not an easy process when it comes to some clients, because they have no idea how to even articulate their service of choice. At the end of the day, this is all due to the barber lingo, which is loosely thrown around. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch y'all on the next one.